Hey guys, I'm Samar. I'm the CEO at JungleWorks, and I'm going to talk about headless commerce today. Right? So it's a confusion that a lot of people have. They don't understand what it is. Is it right for them or not? So I thought I'll make a small video and just drop it so that it's easy for people to understand, and I don't have to explain it again and again. So let's just first step back a little and understand, why headless commerce concept comes into picture, or what is it. So the first thing it starts as is that you think of starting an online business. So essentially you want to sell something online, right? And you have typically have had two options. One was you would buy an online store software and pay a subscription every month, right, or every year. And the second option was you would build it yourself, code it, and kind of just host it on a server and run it. So obviously, the first option of having a SaaS subscription is much faster, much cheaper, much hassle-free, but you don't have a lot of control, right, on the look and feel of the product and the store. And in the build it yourself model, of course, you have complete control, but not everybody can develop or code a store. And even if you can, it'll take a lot of cost, a lot of time, because if it's a SaaS service, they're hosting thousands of stores, and if you're hosting just one store, it's going to cost you much more just in server costs and stuff. And also, the time it will take for you to build it, iron out the bugs and stuff, it's typically not worth it, right? But the advantage is you have a lot of control over how the customer experience looks like. You can exactly make the experience as you want it to be, right? So that's why. So now comes headless into this picture, right? So on one angle you have it's one option is fast and cheap, but you don't have control. And in the other option, you have control on the experience, but you don't have the cost and time to market advantages, right? So what is headless? Headless tries to solve this issue by finding the best of both worlds, right? So for that, there's a little bit of an insight that you need to know. So if you look at any big system, right? So if you look at Google, right? um, the website is typically like less than 1% of the code, right? So there's just a search engine, you click search and done, right? And then it's a page. So essentially the front end is very, very simple, right? The front end means the part that the customers or the consumers see, right? But if you look at the back end, which is essentially where all the processing happens, where which is the brain of the system, it's not very difficult to imagine that it's very, very vast, right? So but Google is much more complicated. Facebook similarly much more complicated. These guys have like 99% of their code is all back end, only maybe 1% of the code is front end. But for a normal product like an online store, this still holds true that approximately 80 to 90% code is backend, because all the functionalities are built in the backend and only about 10 to 20% code is in the front end. So the front end code is super critical because that's the code with which your customers interact with, but it is relatively less amount of code, relatively less effort, right? So that's why this paradigm makes sense, right? So earlier, we used to have monolithic systems, and now, like, we have pretty much all the backends communicating with front ends using APIs. So this makes it possible. So what is headless commerce? Headless commerce is essentially a concept where the backend is provided to you, the customer, as a set of APIs, right? And you can just consume those APIs, right? And build your front end application. This could be a web app, this could be an iOS app, this could be an Android app. All these three apps consume the same APIs from the same backend, and you can just seamlessly code your apps, right? And typically, most companies would give you a sample application, and you can actually edit it and kind of just customize it as you want, right? So now that is headless. What it does is it gives you much lower cost because you are starting with a set of APIs and a sample application, and takes you to market much faster than building it out yourself, and it gives you complete control on the back end, on the front end, right, on the part that consumers or your users interact with, right? So it's best of the both worlds, right? So now let me kind of spend a few minutes on who should be using headless commerce concept, right? So let's say you are starting out, you want to start a store. Trust me, you don't even want to go to headless, because there still you'll have to understand coding, or you'll have to hire a developer, right? It's best to start with SaaS. So my rule of thumb is, unless you're not doing $10,000 of monthly sales, you should actually stick to SaaS. Get a store up and running, right, and just go get started with it. And let's say once you are doing about $10,000 in monthly revenue, that is a good time to actually start thinking or moving to headless commerce, and essentially start. Still don't think about backend. Let the specialists handle it for you, and just focus on the front end. And at some point, you grow a lot, and you get to about $100,000 in monthly revenue. That's a time when you should probably be thinking, like, do you want to build your own system, or like fork out an existing open source product, or like a commercial product. So I think this is like a general thumb of rule. And let me give you a little bit of context of what we do at JungleWorks. So we are a hyper local commerce platform. Essentially, we focus on online stores, but only in the hyper local context. So let's say you have something which which you're selling within a city, right? It could be a service like home services, cleaning services, beauty services and stuff like that. Or it could be a product like, grocery, food, what have you, right? And so we focus on this area, and we have these three offerings, which are SaaS offerings, which is, a self-serve offering. You can just get your store started. And that's what we recommend people to start with, unless, they reach a monthly revenue of $10,000 or more or less, in your case. And then, you move to headless, where you pay, set up fee, and then you pay a small API consumption fee. But you are not worried about, you're not worried about your, you're not worried about the usage of server costs and scalability of the platform. So all that is taken care of for you, and it works seamlessly out of the box. And finally, you have the option to fork our, or self-host our basic our platform. And only large enterprises use that platform option, where they would host it on their servers or on our servers. But it's essentially a completely independent branch, and it needs a lot of developers, it needs a lot of commitment to keep going. But if you're an enterprise and you'll get scale, or you have reached scale and you are over $100,000 in monthly revenue, I think this is the option that makes sense for you. So I hope that this clarifies what headless is, what SaaS offering is, and what forking is, or essentially having your own source code is. So I think hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, you can ask me in comments. But yeah, I mean, if you want me to clarify anything else also, feel free to ask in comments, and I'll help you out. Thank you very much. Bye bye.